On Talking Lifestyle, Talking Relationships.
Yeah, Talking Lifestyle is about travel and food, a bit of finance and gardening. If you like it, if you love it, he's Talking Lifestyle, certainly talking about it. And Tuesday nights we talk relationships. Now, whether you're looking for love or happily married, there's always something here for you on a Tuesday night. And tonight I'm joined on the program by Melissa Ferrari. Now, Melissa specialises in working with adults experiencing depression, anxiety, addictions, obsessive-compulsive behaviours, food, eating related issues, parenting, relationships, of course, separation, loss, trauma, you name it. This is the gal for us, okay? Melissa Ferrari joins us to talk relationships and would love to talk to you tonight on Open Line 13 12 83. Melissa, hi, welcome.
Hi, David. I'm excited to be here.
It's good to have you here, let me tell you. And tell me, please, what is the secret to a long-term relationship? What are your thoughts?
The secret to a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Well, I think that part of it is to do with your ability to actually be in each other's eyes. And what I mean by that is that...
Not necessarily just looking into each other's eyes, or you...
I mean looking into each other's eyes.
Window of the soul.
Yeah, window of the soul.
Yeah.
And when you look into each other's eyes, we're actually looking into each other's nervous systems and we're able to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think the key for couples to be able to have a relationship with all the things like longevity, intimacy, love, and everything that everybody's after is to be able to really look at your partner with loving eyes and affectionately, and you will really see who they are. And the key to it is because we all want to be seen. We want to be seen by our partner. And so something as simple as looking into your partner's eyes lovingly daily, at least once, can go very far.
Otherwise, if they're not looking you in the eye, they've got something to hide, don't you think?
It's possible that they've got something to hide.
Yeah.
It's possible that they find it difficult to look into another person's eyes. Sometimes people find that very, very difficult. But just the act of trying to do it opens up a whole lot of exploration. Who's better at it? Why can't you do it? And it starts some conversation.
Tell us a bit about your background. How did you get into this actual line of work of looking after relationships?
Okay, well, my training is as a psychotherapist. I started out as a counsellor and then I went in to study psychotherapy. And psychotherapy looks a little bit more at what we call attachment theory. And attachment theory has a lot to do with how we relate relationally. And so it really, really sparked my interest. And so I went on to pursue studying deeper couple therapy, and I've travelled around the world. I've been to Canada, I've been to LA, and I'm studying the model called the psychobiological approach to couple therapy.
Okay, tell us about that. What's that? What is it?
It's the psychobiological approach to couple therapy,
Okay.
and it's got 3 different areas, and it's the brain, the study of the brain.
Yeah, very important, isn't it?
The brain plays so much in love, and I may get the opportunity to talk a bit about it tonight. And then the nervous system, how we respond to each other. We know some people sort of respond in a high escalation. Some people are more in a low kind of what we call an arousal state. And I don't mean sexual, I mean the nervous system. And then there is, of course, how we were shaped psychologically and relationally. So they're the 3 areas that are key components that I look at when I work with couples.
Fascinating stuff. What about our backgrounds? Yours, mine, we all grew up with parents.
Yeah.
How much does that play on our relationships of today?
A lot. How we're shaped psychologically and what we witnessed and what we experienced has a lot to do how we interact with each other relationally. And I think the key for things are that, things don't often go so well. And the key is to really understand where things didn't go so well and how you might be playing that out in your relationship.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you have questions, 13 12 83, lines available right now, okay? Melissa is here and would love to talk to you. you. So don't leave it to the last minute and call later tonight and go, oh, I should have called her, or say, who was that woman you had on last night? She was fantastic. Call us now, okay, 13 12 83. We would love to talk to you.
Make my visit tonight worthwhile. I would love to hear from listeners, and the lines are open.
Yeah, that's right. Lines free right now. It won't take you long to get through, okay? 13 12 83. You're a regular on 2UE. You've been here a couple of times at nights, and in fact, we've seen you on the Today Show. You've been on Channel 9 quite a fair bit, haven't you?
I have. I've been on the Today Show and Today Extra, and that's very, very exciting. Love that, and I love to be able to be in a place where I can share with people my thoughts on relationships and what I've learnt over the years. So I love this opportunity. So I really encourage people to ring up and be able to share my thoughts with you and hopefully point some people in the right direction.
You bet. And along the way, we have quite a fair bit to talk about tonight. When to announce a new relationship and introduce your new partner to the family. Very important.
Very, very important.
Timing is everything.
It is, and especially today in the world of social media. All kinds of things happen around when people are in new relationships and how they announce them. And we've got a great person on to talk about that tonight.
Tips for co-parenting after divorce. If you're not getting on during your marriage, it must be even more difficult after, when you've got kids involved. You have to still see each other, and you have to work as two adults to make sure that psychologically those children aren't finding problems in any way.
Separation and divorce is just so difficult when people do come to that decision. And so talking about how you do manage the children is really, really imperative, because if children aren't looked after well, it not only affects the kids, it affects the adults around them, because we intuitively know we're not doing a great job sometimes in terms of separation and divorce. And so getting a few tips on that and some direction, I think, is really, really important for anybody who finds themselves in that place.
Yeah, you don't want it to impact on the kids, that's
No.
for sure. When is too old to have sex? I mean, everybody's going out there and finding love online these days, even our older generation, and rightly so.
That's right. And David, some would say that, you're never too old.
No.
So it's going to be great tonight to have a little bit of a chat about that. I'm very, very excited about that interview as well.
All right. And what makes a relationship work? We'll discuss that in a few moments' time. And the art of saying sorry. I mean, from time to time in a relationship, we've got to say sorry.
And I think it is an art. So
Yes.
we've got some great tips about that tonight.
All right. That's all ahead here on Talking Lifestyle. We're talking relationships tonight. But of course, as we say, your calls certainly welcome. That telephone number, 13 12 83. Dial it right now.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
Talking lifestyles, talking about it.
I think Glenn is ready to talk to you tonight, Melissa. So, Glenn, good evening. Welcome.
Hey, how you going?
Good,
Hi,
thank
Glenn.
you.
It's Melissa here. Thanks for calling. What's your
Melissa.
question?
Well, basically, I've been in problems. I've had mental problems studying all my life.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've broken down. I've been in hospital. I've come back to up, and I just don't know which way to turn. I've got hospitality experience, which I've worked all my life since all the trouble, and I've got my diploma in management. I've worked hard on that since I come back in 2001. And I've tried dating agencies. That doesn't seem to work anymore because I just haven't got the money to pay the bills.
Oh, Glenn, you've had it really tough, hey?
Yes.
So what's your question for me tonight, Glenn?
Which is the best way to turn? Should I go back for psychotherapy, or because I've been in a hospital with it, I've got to get a doctor's certificate to return to work, and I've got my licences, I've got my fork, I've got my truck licence, everything I've obtained in New South Wales since I come back from the trouble.
You just want to pick yourself back up and get back on track, don't you?
That's right.
Yeah, it sounds like you have had it very, very tough, Glenn. Have you spoken to your GP about this?
My GP knows about it. He's been dealing with me ever since I did run away.
Okay. And has he pointed you in the direction?
I'm actually on leave without pay at the moment from where I work, and I'm dealing with, got to get pay slips to get money through from Centrelink so I can pay other bills. But every way I turn, there seems to be a block. Doesn't matter whether it's the computer breaking down or whether it's my mental state that's breaking down or whatever communication. I had offers to work out at Randwick today from Melbourne Cup. Because I didn't have transport, I didn't take it.
Oh, what a shame.
See, you're up against the brick wall all the time, Glenn.
That's right.
Yeah. How can he pick himself up? What are your suggestions? How can he sort of start to get his life back on track, you know?
Well, it sounds like, Glenn, you do need some support here. And so I think it's important for you to think about who you can go to in terms of getting some help here. Have you tried contacting Beyond Blue?
Glenn, have you contacted Beyond Blue?
Not at the moment, not yet.
Okay, Beyond Blue are very, very good with helping with issues that you're talking about and are incredibly supportive in issues that you are describing. And I've had some great experiences with them, and it sounds like that you really need to find somebody who can help you through, because it really does sound like you're struggling. So Beyond Blue is very, very good to talk to. Your GP can point you in some good directions around finding a good person to work with. There's mental health plans and things in place nowadays for you as well.
I'm already under mental health in Blacktown myself anyway.
Yeah,
You
right.
are.
Well,
Okay.
Let me give you the Beyond Blue number, mate. 1300 22 4636. Okay?
Yep.
1300 4636. Okay, and they're there daily. They're there with 24-hour response if you need. But have a chat with them about their suggestions, where you could head to next to, stop getting those brick walls, mate. You want to stop those brick walls, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you want to get back into the workforce.
Appointments I've got to keep for money that I owe another company.
Yeah, that picks you up and helps you
because
along. Listen, and what we'll do, because we took...
They wanted to help me. Now they've hit me with a bill that I can't afford to pay.
Oh, well, look, I'll tell you what we'll do. Because we talk second career on a Monday night too, we'll see if there's something we can't help you with in regard to a position that would suit you, all right?
I worked for AJ. I worked for AJ.
Yeah, okay.
I worked for ANZ Stadium.
Okay, well, look, we don't need to know where you've worked at the moment, but I'll put you on hold. I'll put you back to Marianne, and what we'll do is we'll grab some details. And Matthew Takaki, who works with me here on a Monday night, he's an amazing man. I mean, just an incredible background and an amazing fellow too, and he's no doubt able to find you some work. I'm sure we'll find him
It sounds
something.
like that's where he's needing some support, David, so that would be very helpful.
That'll get him back up
Yep,
off
yep.
off,
Yep.
the merry-go-round of the brick wall, hitting the
Yes.
brick wall all
Yes.
the time. So, Melissa, tell us a little bit more about relationships, looking in the eye. We've got an email from Siv. Now, Siv, if I remember rightly, I think Siv's blind, actually. He says, "G'day, David and Melissa. You mentioned that the secret to having a long and happy relationship is looking lovingly into your husband or wife or same-sex partner, whatever, their eyes. What happens if one of you has an eye condition, which means you can't see each other's eyes clearly at all? It's not a bad thing. What about a hug?" Melissa,
Absolutely.
are you fond of a hug?
I'm very, very fond of a hug.
I'm a hugger. I love hugs.
Big hugger.
Yeah.
My husband would attest to that I am a very, very big hugger. And I think with what you're describing there is that touch is very, very, very important. And so how you touch each other can speak volumes in terms of the things that I were talking about earlier, getting to know your partner in a way where you're able to touch each other, sexually or non-sexually, in a way where you can really discover who each other are. So that would be my suggestion in your case, because what I said about a key to long-term relationship is about really seeing each other. And that what that really means is not only seeing each other with the eyes, it's about seeing and in each other in the way of acknowledgement, in a way where you can relate to that person. I know who you are, and how you can do that with words and touch, gestures, and particularly things where you know what means a lot to that person. We know that experience when you do find that your partner does something that you really, really know, that, my partner likes roses, or my wife likes roses, but I know she likes a particular kind of rose. So there's things like that where you can really know them well enough to do what's really special for them. So I think that there are many ways to make contact and help your partner feel seen in those ways.
Yeah, all right, some good suggestions there. 13 12 83 if you're after a few tips tonight with your relationships. Well, in the past, introducing your partner to your family was a big deal. Today, it seems like less of an event when announcing a new relationship is as simple as updating your single status on Facebook, right? Yet many people, particularly if they have kids from previous relationships, struggle to know when and how to do it to minimise the disruption to their families. Now, our next guest, Renee Mcdonald, is a therapist and offers, in fact, a counsellor and psychotherapist, and offers her tips with us right now for announcing when you've met someone new or when you're in a new relationship, when to introduce them to the family. Renee is on the line. Welcome to the program, Renee.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Hi there, Renee. It's Melissa here.
I'm Melissa.
Hello. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So in terms of today, things are very, very different today in terms of how people announce a new relationship to their family and friends, especially with social media. So with many life events shared over social media, what are some things to consider when making things public? A lot of people do it by doing it on a status. What do you think of that? And what do you think some of the effects are of people announcing a new relationship that way?
Yeah, more and more I'm finding in my work, I feel like there's a little bit of a generation gap between particularly the baby boomers and the Gen Ys, where there's different ways people are communicating via way of social media that different generations would not have done in the past. So now we're seeing people update a status, and as quick as someone is engaged or married, they can be just as quickly separated or divorced. Really interesting space we're now living in social media.
And so what you're really talking about there is that experience of where people do announce something by changing the status from separated to divorced, or from being separated to in a relationship. It does have impact on people around them. And I know for myself, working as a therapist, my experience can often be that somebody can say, but you didn't tell me first. You put it on Facebook, or you put it somewhere on social media, but
Exactly.
I felt like I was more special than that, and I wanted to be the first to know.
Yeah, and this can be, I feel like we live in tricky times where we need to navigate that. And some people may even choose, and it can be even as simple as, a baby announcement as well. And what if you put the baby announcement up on Facebook and you haven't told all your family that you've had the baby too? So there's all sorts of tricky things that can happen in relationships now. And I think it's a brave new world. And on that note, we need to be able to navigate that and sometimes just have the conversations whilst people of a younger generation kind of take it in their stride. Well, that's how things work. However, on the flip side, it's really good still to have those conversations before you put that status update up.
Yeah, because what can happen is that not everybody reads all this, or goes on Facebook every day and reads your status. And so you can have something that you've announced, something that's happened big in your life, like you've got a new partner or you're divorced or something. And next time you see that person, it can make an assumption that they know what's going on for you. And so it can set up all kinds of problems, can't it, Renee?
Yes, definitely. And I think that's just the nature of social media. No one can know what's going on inside your head. It's really important to still not forget to have those face-to-face or phone conversations with people.
So what do you think is the best way to do it?
I think it's a combination of these things now. So, of course, younger people want to make those announcements. I think it's still important to have, at least a telephone conversation with your parents or close other people in your life to say, this is what's happening, I'm in this relationship now, and then announce it so that they're not the last ones to find out.
So letting your immediate family know straight away when something significant has happened.
That would definitely be my suggestion. It saves a lot of heartache.
And do you think you should introduce your partner sooner rather than later, or do you think it depends on the relationship? My thoughts are it depends on the solidity of the relationship and where you guys are at, like if you're dating and in the early days or whether it's further down the track. When do you think is the best time to introduce a partner?
Well, certainly it depends on the nature of the relationship. I'm thinking back even to my younger days and even many clients I've come across. I work with couples. It really depends on how serious the relationship is as to when you would introduce that person to family. But what's interesting is you might see pictures of this person up on Facebook and not meet them in person.
Right.
So there might be, you might have told your parents or close other people who is your partner, but they might not have met them in person. And there might be some offence taken if your friends have met this person and not the parents. So there can be tricky things like that can happen.
So what kind of things are people doing in general on social media that you notice when they're dating? What do you notice?
Yeah, what I'm really noticing is a kind of a mix of things where there's a raft of things like sexting seems to happen, and that can be privately in the, say, on Facebook. It can be private messaging. There can be private messaging by way of just a mobile phone contact. There can be all sorts of interesting ways people will meet each other in the dating scene, and then how long that might do. The kind of courting is often by way of texting, sexting, and a raft of different options that people have as to contacting each other.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's more complicated nowadays, isn't it? And what influence do you think that is having on young people who are practicing, doing things differently to how we did it because they do have social media? What effects do you think that's having? Do you think it's more positive or negative?
I think there's both positive and negative things that are coming out of this. Sometimes there can be lots of laughs that can happen, and you can put something in a message that you might not say to someone face to face that can be funny, but then there can be negative as well, where you might put something in writing that in the past people would have put something pen to paper, they would have really thought about it and written it down and sent it in the post. That seems like, dinosaur days these days.
Yeah.
But
It does.
The old love letter, long gone,
the
hasn't it?
love letter. and so you'd send a love letter and you'd wait a week or two to get it back and something back. And these days, immediate gratification happens.
Yeah, and I think thankfully we have those little emotion. What are they called?
Emojis.
Emojis.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
what they're called. Thank God for those, hey, because otherwise, if a lot of
We don't know
things,
how you feel.
No, exactly. A lot of things can get misinterpreted without those, and they are very, very, very helpful. Whoever invented them, they're very helpful.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, because you've got the LOL, and in the past you would write someone and that would be lots of love. And LOL now means laugh out loud.
Yes, that's right. And it's interesting because I know that people have had that experience where my mum read something and she thought the LOL was lots of love, and so nowadays it's a little different because LOL means something else.
Yes. So there's a whole new language around texting that is different, and 3, 4, 5 letter acronyms are kind of somehow getting people unstuck.
Yeah, yep. It's a bit of an art to it, isn't there, Renee?
There is an
Yeah,
art to
absolutely.
it. YOLO.
Yeah.
YOLO.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Renee, thank you very much for being part of the program tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
More than welcome.
Thanks so much, Renee.
Yeah, when to announce a new relationship, when to introduce them to the family. I mean, it just goes straight up on Facebook these days. It's straight up on social media, isn't it?
Yep, that's right.
The love letter. Remember the love letter?
Yeah, I do remember.
What about the autograph books? Did you ever have an autograph book? Remember those?
That might be a little bit before my time, possibly.
A lot of people have where somebody would write something to you in your book.
Ah, beautiful.
And nowadays, like they've got that LOL, and there were a couple of fellas the other day jumped into the harbour from the wharf where I catch the ferry, and they said, "Oh well, YOLO," and walked away, and that means you only live once.
You only live once.
But they used to write in the book, too wise, it's two and the wise.
Yep.
You are too wise. You be.
Yep.
I see you are too wise for me.
Yes.
Autograph books. Everything's changed now.
It
Everything's
certainly
online.
has.
Texting.
Yes, and things used to be a little bit more personal in that respect. And it's interesting because there's just so many different aspects to social media and what it does for relationships nowadays. And it has so many positive aspects. And then it has the downside, which Renee was talking about. But in terms of the positive aspects, some people feel more connected than they've ever felt, and feel, really, really close because they do have so many Facebook friends and things like that. So it's really got some positive aspects.
It's definitely good for parents to see children and to see what they're doing, but also grandparents to be able to see their grandkids.
Absolutely.
Facebook is just handy to be able to share so much.
Especially with families nowadays that have so much distance. It's beautiful.
Yeah, you bet. 13 12 83. If there's a question you have tonight for Melissa Ferrari is our guest here on Talking Relationships. It's not just vitamins, juices or quality food that can boost your immune system. Research shows that unhappy marriages and stressed relationships actually weaken the immune system, and couples with healthy relationships have 35% fewer illnesses. Your thoughts?
Yeah.
Interesting research.
Absolutely. That research was done by relationshipsfirst.org, and what that is that's a collection of couple therapists from around the world, and they actually did that study, and that's what they come up with. And so what it was really promoting was, and still is, about healthy relationships and the benefits that if you have a relationship that you both experience as really healthy, it can actually reduce those illnesses by 35%.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Do
you think we ever become addicted to our partners?
Well, I think that the normal part of the brain in love is to become a bit addicted to our partners, and that's why it's sort of like that reward system where we want to be with them all the time. That's how the brain does set it up.
Serotonin, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. That's right.
The pleasure centre in the brain.
Exactly.
It sparks up.
Exactly.
And it sparks up when you see your partner.
It does, and
Yeah.
it gets all those positive endorphins going. And so it's that experience that almost feels addictive, and you keep going back for more. And so there is that element where you get addicted to your partner, but it's a kind of addiction when you're talking about the brain that's a healthy one. There can be addictions to partners that isn't so healthy, and can, end up with all sorts of problems because you haven't got enough of your own individuation. You need to be two individuals in a relationship to make that work.
Yeah, okay. If you have questions, 13 12 83. Can we ever get back the high that we had when we first met?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
We can. And the way to do that is I always recommend to people, go back and do things that you did in the beginning.
Ah, yes.
Like go back
right.
to those very, very early days,
Yeah.
because you've got a blueprint there on how it used to be, and that you remember, the body remembers how that actually felt. So I always recommend to couples to go back to that
Those
good
feelings.
stuff,
Yeah,
those
yeah,
good
the good-
feelings,
yeah.
and whether it be going to a restaurant, ordering the same food, going back to a place that you both packed a picnic, and all of that kind of stuff. It's actually got experience where the body remembers that, and so you can bring back some of those old feelings.
Yeah, how wonderful. You can get that experience back again, that first high that you had when you first dated, yes?
That's right, which is the addictive part.
All right, Melissa Ferrari is here tonight, talking relationships, 13 12 83, our number. While we all hope for the best in our relationships, sometimes they just don't work out. And then the next dilemma is, how do you explain it to the kids? For couples who have decided separation or divorce is the best option, how to support the family through the change is a challenging but a very important process. Our next guest, Liz Paul, is a psychotherapist and family therapist who helps couples going through this separation and shares her tips for effective co-parenting after the split, and joins us on Talking Relationships tonight. Good evening, Liz.
Oh, good evening, David. How are you?
Good.
Hi there,
That's
Liz. It's
good.
Melissa here. Hello.
Hi, Melissa. Hi. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
This is a very, very important topic, and I chose you to speak about it tonight because I know that you deal a lot with this, being a family therapist, and you
correct.
help many couples and families, and so it seems to be a very important subject with
It
the
is.
amount of divorce that we do have in society. So my first question relating to children: can people who have separated really amicably co-parent?
Oh, great, great question, Melissa. Yes, they can. They can, but it's not easy. And I really do feel they need to have some education around it. So that could be picking up some books and reading, or going to see a therapist. But it's hard. There's so much pain going on for them, and a lot of fear of what lays ahead. So it's a really big step, and it's probably one of the hardest things people bring into room. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
It's a difficult territory to sort of step into, and it really does require a lot on board in terms of how to manage it. And so my question to you tonight is, what tips do you have around managing the children, particularly around, their reactions, custody issues, how you manage sharing time, and explaining that arrangement to the children?
Okay, well, that's a nice long question, but that's fine. If I forget anything, Melissa, just pull me up.
I absolutely
So,
will. I'll
start
help
with,
you out, Liz.
You help me out.
Yeah.
All right, starting with the first thing is even making the decision. It's really hard, and I have couples that come for couples therapy, but generally they know they're splitting up already, So some people come in and they want to really work hard and go forward, but they'll sometimes come in and they'll say to me, we don't know if this is going to work. And part of it is we're going to explore this, but we may find this, we think we're too far gone, and that we really want to explore for you. How do we do this in a healthy way with our children, And I love, the clients, I really admire them. They come in, they wear their heart on their sleeve. It's really tough for them. And they say, what can we do? So first and foremost is, righto, let's find out firstly whether this is a definite. So we work on that, and then we say things like, all right, you've made it definite. I think going forward, we need to work out what we're going to say to the children and that we're going to say it together. And we have to be on board with that. So where I have a few difficulties is in the point of them trying to work out whether they're going to stay together or not. It gets so acrimonious that one or the two will step in and say, and this has happened, they'll come to me and they say, well, we've decided, but he's gone off and he told my son on the weekend, we're not going to live together anymore because Mummy doesn't love me anymore and I have to leave the house.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, that's a no-no.
Yeah.
And I looked at him, he said, well, Liz, you told me I'd have to be really honest. And I said, yeah, I did. I probably didn't give the whole story. Honesty is the first part. The next part is age appropriateness to what your message is. Second part is really, really important. No blame in the explanation.
Okay.
So saying, Mummy doesn't love me anymore, I have to get out of the house, is clearly putting blame at Mummy's feet or Daddy to that point. This is 50-50. There's no if I sound gender biased or not. But this is what happened. So,
okay, so Liz, it sounds like from what you're saying, it's really important for couples or separating couples to think about how old the children are, and there might be different ways of approaching it if the children are a lot younger. So, what would be your recommendations, particularly when younger children are going to be in different homes and there's custody issues and all of those kind of arrangements, and it means that the children have got to get used to a lot in terms of different things, drop-offs and all of that kind of stuff. What do you recommend around that?
Well, first and foremost, you're right. If they're really young, we have to keep it really simple, but, an age appropriate, something along the lines of Mum and Dad have stopped, living together. We don't feel like a couple anymore, but we still really love you and we'll always be there for you. We're your mum and dad and you're really important to us. It's got nothing to do with you. We're just trying to work through it, but we'll be all right as a family, and we're still a family, but we're just going to live differently, right? And so then it's how do we go about living differently? And generally, and I think at this day and age, a lot of the courts, if the children are safe and they're loved, a lot of the way they like it to go now is 50-50 custodial. That's not always suitable because sometimes people can't do the 50-50, and that's perfectly fine. But if it can, it's great for the kids because it keeps them in communication and close contact with both mum and dad, which is really important.
I once read something that you wrote, Liz, and it was about the drop-offs. And what I loved that you wrote was never pick up the child on the changeover day, like don't pick them up from the other parent. You recommended that drop-off is better. Right. So why do you recommend that?
Well, the thing is, children get really involved in activities, as you know, and this is young children. This is, once again, young children, teenagers, I'll get around to them. Young children get very involved. So they're with Dad, say, for instance, and pick up side, but they're in a game of Monopoly. And they're really focused on that and they're really enjoying the family time and Dad's enjoying it. And he might see the time creeping up and they're going, no, Dad. And they don't want to finish right on the dot, But, hey, Mum's there with the doorbell going and they're crying, but Dad, we want to finish, And then they haven't packed their bag and all this sort of stuff happens. And then Mum finds herself dragging, or Dad finds himself dragging the kids from what was a beautiful family time. So, and of course, everybody feels bad then. And Mum feels bad also being on a doorstep, or Dad does, of a house they're not really welcome in sometimes. So the thing is, if you've got them in your custodial time and you've got to have them at school at 9 o'clock, you make sure they're at school at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So by the same token, if it's past that time and Mum's supposed to have it or Dad's supposed to have children back at 5 o'clock on a Sunday, then it's your responsibility to have that all packed up, the kids hugged and kissed, told they're loved and dropped off to Mum. So Mum hasn't had to come in, or Dad has not had to come in and feel like they're ripping the kids away from a fun time.
Okay.
So it puts the responsibility, the onus on the parent who's due to pass over.
That's a great suggestion. Great suggestion. So, Liz, how can you make shared decisions with your ex? In my experience, usually if you haven't got along well married, it's amplified when you're separated. So those old issues resurface in the same way that you couldn't communicate before. You still can't communicate any better now. How can you make some shared decisions with your ex that work in a positive stepping forward for the children, that it's something positive for them.
Yeah. That's absolutely right, Melissa. If it didn't work in the marriage, it's only probably going to be worse once you're separated and in different houses. And I suppose it's a time when you realise you actually have to step up and work harder at it. Always remembering that you are the adult. It is really tough that, you're, particularly if it's acrimonious, and, you're really finding it hard to be nice to one another, and yet you've got to try to come to an agreement. I suppose what I say to couples is if you can be a little bit flexible, that will help a lot, because, sometimes you're going to have to be. If you hold on to what you think's right 100%, then you're only going to make yourself unhappy and the children unhappy ultimately. What you also need to do is to sort of think, all right, I need to get a little bit more cooperative, or, sort of help each other win sometimes.
Yep.
You're never going to win all the time. If you think you're going to win all the time, you're going to be miserable, your children are going to be miserable, and the whole escalation of the arguments will up. So we have to give in sometimes, and try not to sweat the small stuff, so he doesn't put the kids into bed at 7 o'clock, but he gets them in by 8.
Yep.
They're going to be really important things you need to talk about down the track once you hit adolescence. So try not to sweat small stuff. It might be really important to you, but, think, how important is this going to be 5 years down the track? Different if you let them stay up all night.
Yep, so it's really good to forecast and think about what's happening ahead.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
What you're aiming for there is a win-win, because if it becomes win-lose between you two, the kids usually lose. So
the kids always lose.
Yeah.
The kids always lose. And this is the whole thing. You have to put your emotional heartache, I suppose, and angst, you have to put the children before that. And often the emotions in a breakup, the emotion you have with that partner is actually quite severe, and so they trigger all sorts of anger and resentment and bitterness, and it's really hard to think, I've got to put that aside, because ultimately, at the end of the day, my child's psychological well-being has to come first.
Yep.
And of course, whatever we can't put that aside, can't come first. So, it's tough, and some people do have to come and sit with therapists like myself, and I talk about simple things like, once you do have your children in different places, it's not a bad thing to have laminated sheets of, what you have to pack in your bag every day for the children. We've got to help them, because, they've been dragged from house to house here.
Yeah.
And we've got to have compassion, because it's really hard for them,
I always
they're going to have to get a shoe.
I always say to people, even as an adult, if we lived in two separate houses, we would find that hard on a 50-50 basis.
It would be difficult.
It would be. So for children, it's and I think it's important too, Liz, in my experience, is that people know that there is a big difference between doing couple therapy and doing therapy around co-parenting. They are two very, very different things, and it's important for people to know that when they're looking for somebody to help them out, that a couple therapist is not always the ideal person. You really need to know someone who knows some good mediation skills and things like that as well.
Right. There is a lot of mediation, and I sort of find when people come to me and they've already split and they've got their children, it is about wanting a third party to help them come to that compromise sometimes, or to sort of say, okay, this is all right, we can do it this way. But really, just getting back to a question you asked me a while ago, Melissa, was, sort of things I try to say to people is, if we can treat each other with respect, which I know is really hard, it really does make a difference. And with time, it makes a big difference to the children, because ultimately, in the day, we're trying to teach them to be respectful. And if they're not watching their parents doing it, it gets really tough. So it's simple minutes.
It's a great tip.
That means... just means make sure you tell your partner or your ex-partner that there is something going on at the school, rather than, he doesn't know, I won't tell him, I won't tell her. Keep them in the loop. And the more you keep each other in the loop, the more you are generous to that past person, the better it's going to get for the kids. And you know what? Sometimes when you're really generous, and I know that's tough, it becomes reciprocated, and that's what we're after. We're after reciprocation here. So just sort of try to keep in mind, keeping one another in the loop.
Yep.
Being flexible about schedules, because things change all the time, and sometimes if you want them an extra hour, asking in advance on the day and saying, look, I really want that extra hour. Can I have it? Because there'll become a time when you'll want the extra hour. So let's think about that.
Exactly,
And,
Liz. There's some great apps out there nowadays too.
there is.
I think these apps are great that people can use for schedulers and all of that kind of stuff when they're dealing with their children. And that way, even if there's a little thing that's happened that day at school that the other partner should know about, you can use these apps and things. I think one of them called Yammer is a very good one.
Okay.
And they're really, really good for communication, particularly if communication's a problem between the couple.
And generally it is, but that's a great idea, Melissa. I'll make sure I talk about that.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know about that app, so that's a new one for me. So, and that's a really good thing because this is something that happens a lot. I didn't get told, and I was left out, or he decided to go somewhere for the day and didn't get back for 2 hours late and didn't tell me, and I turned up and, I got told at the last minute, but I was having people over and I wanted them to, grandma, to see the kids before they went to bed. We have to keep each other in the loop. And the more we do that, the more the children feel safe and secure because they see that you're communicating. They know you're together on these things, and so that, you've got each other's back and that they don't feel like they're being shoved in the middle of it. And they don't feel, like it's all too hard. And some kids do, and they're the ones that come in with such sad little faces. And Melissa, I talk a lot about little ones, but why I've got you, what I'd really like to talk about is our adolescents because they really struggle. And what I see is in the 50-50 arrangements, we get into adolescence and a lot of them really don't want to go. And it's not through lack of love. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just got to do with them being adolescent and needing their space and wanting their room and not wanting to be thrown into, wherever it is they're most comfortable. And that often is where they were originally, but not always. But, where I found it tough is, I had a young boy come in for family therapy a while ago. Well, Mum brought him in and I said I'd like to do family therapy. And but in the course of it, he was in trouble. He was doing all sorts of, boy behaviours. But in the course of it, he was feeling really bad because he wanted to live with Mum, but he felt really resentful because he felt really sad for Dad because Dad was on his own and he felt that he had to be the one that stayed with Dad.
Sounds like, Liz, it's a great time to have you back on and we'll talk more about it.
Yeah, we might get you back on to talk about adolescence because, yes, it's a totally different ball game.
Totally different.
They don't want to upset either parent, but, they want their space as well. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's really hard to work with that one, but we have to work with that one.
Yeah. Psychotherapist and family therapist Liz Paul, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, David,
Thanks.
and thank you, Melissa.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks for coming on.
No problem. Bye.
Bye.
Talking lifestyles, talking about it.
It's tough for adolescents, isn't it? Tough for the kids too. They blame themselves, don't they, when it comes to a separation? But certainly if you have questions, we'd love to hear from you tonight. 13 12 83. If you have questions about co-parenting after a divorce, Melissa, you can answer the questions, certainly, can't you?
I can, and I think that Liz gave some great tips there, And one that I love was she said about don't sweat the small stuff. That's something that I even recommend to couples that haven't separated. You have to learn to do that even when you are not co-parenting, when you are in a couple of relationship. And so I think that she gave some really great tips there.
Yeah, don't sweat the small stuff. That's most important for everybody, isn't it, these days?
It sure is.
Yeah,
sure is.
13 12 83. If you have questions about co-parenting, we would love to hear from you tonight. 13 12 83. So we'll go through a few tips too. We mentioned earlier about the immune system. 35% fewer illnesses in couples with a healthy relationship. We'll go through those when we get together again next hour because we've got to stop down for the news shortly. Also addiction, we'll talk more about that. Being addicted to your partner, it's a nice thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a nice thing, and it does promote those feel-good hormones and all of those endorphins and all of that kind of thing. And it's really what keeps the relationship together because you want more of each other.
Yeah, that's right. And you might have a few more tips on relationships, on staying together too. So that you don't actually separate, you don't divorce. Yeah.
I have plenty of tips.
We'll do that after the news, which is next. So if you have questions, 13 12 83, our open line telephone number. It's Melissa Ferrari tonight, our special guest here on Talking Relationships, here on Talking Lifestyle.
On Talking Lifestyle, Talking Relationships.
That's what we do on a Tuesday night. That's what it's all about. Talking relationships. Tonight, Melissa Ferrari is with me in the studio. We'd love to hear from you on open line too. 13 12 83, the telephone number. The art of saying sorry. We've all got to say sorry once or twice, or maybe more, haven't we, Melissa?
Probably more, I would dare say,
I
David.
dare say a fair few times for me. Yes, the art of saying sorry. We'll take a look at that in a few moments' time. We talked to Liz Paul, counsellor, before the news. Tips for co-parenting after a divorce. Maybe you have some questions. You're certainly welcome to give us a call right now on 13 12 83 if you do have questions. When do you know the relationship is headed for the rocks? When do you pick up on those vibes?
That is a really, really good question. And there's actually a researcher and psychotherapist, couple therapists called Dr. John Gottman, and he's from the Gottman Institute, and he says that there are really some clear predictors of divorce, and I encourage people to look it up. He calls them the 4 horsemen, and the 4 things that he lists are contempt between a couple,
Right, yes.
criticism,
Yeah.
defensiveness, and stonewalling. Stonewalling is where you decide to just shut your partner out. And some people really do decide to do that. They think, I can't cope with this relationship. I'm just going to live my life on my own and get about things and sort of stonewall their partner. And these 4 things are really big predictors of what couples do over a long time, sometimes even over a short time, because it's hard for people to tolerate that level for a long, long time. And so that they're really big predictors of divorce. And what's important for couples to be able to do is be able to recognise, you guys are in it together. I always say to couples, if one's not feeling good, if one goes down, you both go down. If your partner's not happy and you're doing things like those 4 things that I mentioned, contempt, criticism, defensiveness and stonewalling, they are things that can really, really harm the relationship in a way. And so, we come into a relationship to take good care of each other.
Yeah.
We come into a relationship because we want to be good to the other person, and we come into a relationship and, to get something back, we really, really do have to give. And so there are some pretty strong predictors of what can lead to divorce, and they're by a very famous researcher is what he's come up with are very, very strong predictors.
Very good. I mean, you've got to want for the other person more than you want for yourself.
You do. There has to be that real generosity and that giving of yourself in a way to not just get back. You've got to put in to get back. And I think that that's a concept around relationship that's really important. And furthermore to that, what's most important is safety and security. Safety and security are really key factors to longevity in relationships, and what I mean is there's things, there's threats. We do little things to each other which we call little T threats. I'm not talking about big T where there's domestic violence, and that's a very, very different story. I'm just talking about things like little T threats, when you give that partner the look, or you roll your eyes and you do things that actually start to feel to your partner a little bit unsafe. It's like that doesn't feel good. And those kind of things play with parts of the brain, and the main one being the amygdala. And the amygdala is where we have that primitive fight-flight response. And so these little cues that you see visually on your partner's face, tone, the way that they are with you, slamming doors, all of those little gestures are all getting picked up by that part of the brain that's so important. And unfortunately, it makes us go into fight or flight. So I always say to couples, get to understand each other's part of the brain called the amygdala, because it's running the show.
Yes.
It's absolutely running the show. And when you're sparking off negative reactions in your partner, you will end up down a very, very slippery slope. So being careful of that stuff's important.
You can always pull back from the edge, though, can't you? There are ways and means of ending an argument in the nicest possible of tones.
I always say to people, what I notice with couples, there's always that one that has that ability to sort of say, hang on, let's not do this. Like, let's just take a break, or let's go and have something to eat and come back to our argument. I always say come back to the issue, because you don't want things to just sort of sit there.
No.
But usually there's one that's better at it. And if couples can get a dialogue going, you're actually better at ending the fights. And I give you permission to do it more often, because you find that it really works. And so when couples can get to know each other in that way, this stuff can be stopped dead in its tracks very, very, very quickly. And the key is, am I behaving safely and securely for my partner, and not triggering those negative responses that can make them not feel good?
Yeah. Okay. Melissa Ferrari is here with me tonight. Melissa Ferrari. Do you have a website that we can go to?
I do. My website's www.melissaferrari, MELISSA, FERRARI, like the fast car.
Yeah.
So www.melissaferrari.com.au. You can go to my website, and there's plenty of different blogs and information there for you to have a look at.
Yeah, but tonight you're ours, which is wonderful.
I thank you very much for asking me to come on.
Don't let the night go past without asking a question. 13 12 83. You might be in turmoil at the moment. You want to pull back from the brink, or maybe it's just too late. You think, should I ask the question, is this the end?
Yeah, and I really encourage couples, we always have little questions about our relationship, and so ringing in and actually asking the question. I'm not going to have all the answers, and of course we're on air and we need to be mindful of things like that, but it's a really good opportunity just to ask me a question, and I can point you in the right direction or answer your question here on the spot.
Yep, 13 12 83. You can remain anonymous. Just simply change your name. It's very simple. Tina is calling from Canberra, from our nation's capital. How are you, Tina?
Good evening. I'm very well.
That's the
Melissa, you're driving Ferrari, you lucky girl.
Oh, well, I'm working on driving that Ferrari, Tina. I'm working very, very hard at it. I haven't got there yet.
I bet, yeah. So we were talking about Sarah and Tony getting married and developing something you call serotonin brain something.
Sarah and Tony, they get together and they do good things in your brain. Hey, they make love.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, is there a pill for it?
Is there a pill?
Who wants a pill? That's the quick way out, Tina.
What a gorgeous question, Tina. And of course, the first question always is for people, is there a pill? Well, there is a pill, and people can talk to their GP about that. But what I do recommend for people is to just remember that those feel-good kind of hormones can come from many things, like being in a good relationship, exercise, food. There's many, many things that we can do to lift our serotonin levels. And I'm not a GP, and so I don't want to get into it too much, but they would be my suggestions. And Tina, I think you're adorable how you've asked that question. It's so very sweet.
Oh, you see, you have to put humor in it, otherwise it's not useful.
You're adorable, Tina.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't she? I like her already.
My husband and I are always humoring each other, Would you
Yes.
like me to tell you another joke?
Oh, yes, please, quick. Yes.
Well, quickly.
Yes.
Old people are going in the park and looking at two young people hugging and kissing.
Oh,
And
yes.
the wife says, "Look, they're hugging and kissing. Why don't you do that?" And says, "Do what? Hug and kiss." And the husband says, "I cannot do that. I don't know the woman."
Yes, Yes, Tina. I think we've heard that one before, but anyway, she's gorgeous, isn't she?
She's
Tina
lovely.
is
Thank
fantastic.
you, Tina, for calling.
Yeah, she's wonderful. And look, earlier we talked about the vitamins, the juices, and everything that help boost our immune system. But some tips on a healthy relationship to get us a healthy life. I mean, get us more energetic and our immune system back up and running.
Well, what really drains people in their relationships and can affect your health in very, very subtle ways is fighting and arguing in relationships.
Yeah, gets you down.
There are real ways to be able to fight fair. And what I mean by that is really when we all have grievances with our partners, it often on the surface looks like it's things, I always sort of say it's either, the children, mess, not spending enough time together, money issues. There's so many surface issues, sex, all of that kind of stuff that come into my couple therapy room. And I always say to people, what you're arguing about are everyday issues. They are there for every one of us every single day. And so we get through life navigating our relationships and so many things do come up. But what's really important is that when you want to fighting fair is about when you want to raise something with your partner, go ahead and do it. But it's how you do it. Tone of voice is very, very important. Choosing more gentler words, using what I call soft communication, keeping in mind that when we have a fight, we're both in the same boat. I go back to what I said earlier. One goes down, we both go down.
Yeah.
Take care of each other in it. Another thing I say to people, when you're fighting, don't use email, text, or the phone. I think that it really is better to be able to do it up front and close because you get to notice little nuances in your partner's face that actually makes it look like that they're looking at you more lovingly and more softly than what you can be left with in your own mind if they're not there in front of you. Big thing I recommend to people is never argue when you're driving.
Oh, yes. That's good advice.
Because you just one is concentrating on the road, and so the answers are going to get really, really short. And because you're both looking in one direction, you can't see what's going on in each other's minds.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you sometimes really look at your partner and you notice that when you're talking about a subject and you can see that their chest starts to rise and fall, that means that that's making them a little bit anxious. But if you're doing it just by text or email and having arguments in that way, you miss those little things that really create a more empathic response in you. And empathy is really what we do need for each other in a couple relationship. Aiming for a happy relationship where you both take care of each other. What you don't want to do is create long-term stress hormones in your partner that raises the cortisol levels too much. Causing your partner too much stress really, really can have an effect on their health. So just keeping in mind, you're here to protect and look after each other. So be that person that is a soft place for your partner to fall. Try not to be the one that creates the stress for them. Commit to greeting each other really well at the end of the day. It's really, really important doing a kind of what we call a ventral to ventral, which is stomach to stomach kind of hug, and holding it for a good amount of time until you feel the other one relax in your arms.
Yeah.
And what that does is it regulates your nervous systems.
Right.
So when you've both had a really busy day and you have that kind of hug and you experience it in your body, it actually regulates your nervous system. And I have couples report that when they do that on a daily basis, it sets up so much more of a lovely evening within the family.
You're my kind of girl. See, love a hug.
Yeah.
A very good, strong, and then a relaxing hug.
Absolutely. And, I recommend people look that up. The person that created the Welcome Home exercise is Dr. Stan Tatkin, and you can actually look up the Welcome Home exercise. Dr. Stan Tatkin, Tatkin. He is the author of the fabulous book Wired for Love. It is a fantastic book, and I recommend it to all of the people that I see. And he is the one that created the model I talked about, the psychological approach to couple therapy. And I go around the world to learn from Dr. Stan Tatkin, and he offers some really good advice. And last one, be mindful of separations and reunions. We do have a mature brain, but we still have that little kiddie part of us that don't tolerate separation and, how to manage reunions so well. And so while children, when they're going off to sleep, they're leaving you. They're going into their own subconscious. And that's why kids sometimes have anxiety issues when they're going to sleep. The interesting thing is that us as mature, people who are in couple relationships, we can have the same experience when we're going to bed. We're actually leaving our partner. So I always say, and Dr. Stan Tatkin recommends this as well, put your partner to bed. There's always one of you that stays up late and one goes to bed early.
Yeah.
Put the one that is staying up late, put the other one to bed early, and that way they can go off into their sleep because their body clock's different. But you've both aligned your nervous systems in such a way. Maybe read something together, look at some stuff, that people do on what people do when they're looking on computers and all that. And I know you shouldn't do that for the light and everything, but do something that has that mutual feeling where you're doing something collaboratively. And, for some people it's to have sex, whatever it is, but put the other person to bed.
Great advice. There's the tips from Melissa Ferrari tonight. If you have questions, you can certainly ask them right now on Open Line 13 12 83, that telephone number.
Talking lifestyles, talking about it.
This is Talking Relationships. Anyone who's been in a relationship knows that there's a time when you need to actually say, I'm sorry. Asking for forgiveness can be easy, but making a truly heartfelt apology that allows the other person to accept that is an art form. So what is the key to a very good apology? Claire Mann is a psychologist and joins us on Talking Relationships. Hi, Claire.
Good evening. How are you going?
I'm all right. Okay. So the art form of an apology.
Hi, Claire. It's Melissa here. I've got a few questions for you. Some people dislike confrontation that saying sorry can bring. Why can it be difficult to do? And why is it important to apologise?
It's interesting, isn't it? There's huge variation in people's ability and willingness to put themselves in a situation of standing in front of someone, looking them in the eye and saying, I was wrong, I'm sorry. And some people go to great lengths to avoid it. It's almost as if they feel somehow they'll be less than. They'll feel diminished in some way, or someone will take advantage or start an argument and say, well, you should be sorry and this is why. They often feel embarrassed. And yet it's terribly important because it's almost like a bank account. If we have a need to say sorry, we've done something that has injured someone deliberately or inadvertently, we're taking money out of the relationship bank. And we all know what happens when we go overdrawn.
Okay, so that's a good way of looking at it, that it's like a bank, and so every time that you can do or say a sorry successfully, you're actually depositing into the bank of the relationship.
Yes, it's a good way to say it, isn't it? And you could assess that by not only what you're saying, but time you spend with someone, for instance. If you constantly put down, don't turn up for a coffee date, you can only do that so many times.
That's
you
right.
need to put some credit back.
Exactly. So what do you think makes a good apology and what makes a bad apology?
Well, I think we smell inauthenticity a mile off.
Yeah.
When someone says, that's right, when someone says sorry through gritted teeth, when we're children, say sorry to Tommy next door, and the child sort of is almost spitting as they're saying it. We're a little bit more sophisticated, hopefully, as adults. But I think it's about being genuine. And somebody feeling that you've genuinely said, look, I've affronted you in some way, and I'm prepared to put my hands up and say I did something wrong.
So just mentioning there, Claire, children, do you think that how we're shaped psychologically and what children observe in their family of origin and in their own family has an impact on an adult's ability to say sorry?
I think it does. I think that whole modelling thing is very pertinent here. If someone has not had an opportunity to see people get over difficult conversations easily, or we're saying sorry as perhaps met with an argument or blame, if they don't have those sort of experiences which come out in a successful outcome, they're often not able to dare to put themselves in that situation. And they may not have the linguistic skills to navigate this and also deal with the response of the other person, because if somebody becomes angry or blaming, the person's, if they have no experience of this, they often want to snatch the apology back.
It's almost like if you've had a positive template to follow off from what you've observed growing up, it can go far with issues like this.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's very important for parents not to be perfect. In fact, we need what I call good enough parenting so that we can have the ups and downs. And if we had perfect parenting, we'd go into a world and have no skills to deal with an imperfect world.
Okay, so Claire, have you got a few tips on how to say sorry?
Yes, I think that as always, it's potentially a difficult conversation. And this always requires two different aspects, is being self-aware of your part in the discussion and your reactions or feelings during that sort of exchange, but also having certain linguistic skills. And I always say to people, when you're about to enter any difficult conversation, and saying sorry can be one of those, make a contract. Say to people, do you have 5 minutes? Because often when we launch into saying sorry and explaining the situation, and the other person themselves may feel embarrassed, so they sort of run away, and we start hurling information at them quickly to, now we've decided we're going to do it. So, but if somebody says, yes, I've got 5 minutes, when the going gets tough, you can refer back to that contract.
Beautiful.
So, that's why I asked, for instance. So that's very important. I think body language is also important, although if it's happening on the phone, that's a little more difficult, is to look someone in the eye and ask for the conversation and say, tentatively, also to check out, is it their understanding that an apology is due? They may be totally unaware of what's happened. You might have harboured this experience and feel you have to say sorry, and the information is completely new to them. So you might say, well, look, there was something that happened last week, and we had this exchange, and if it's obvious, you'd say, and I could see that you were really unhappy, and I shouted at you, hands up, I'm sorry, and I really apologise. I did not mean to do that and offend you in that way. If the person's unaware of it, you tentatively check that out and say, do you remember? Now, I think it's also important to, you can feel sorry for say, shouting at someone, but not feel sorry about the issue at hand. And I think it's important, it's necessary to check those out. So you could say, for instance, I really apologise. I yelled at you in public, and I could see you were really embarrassed, and I truly apologise for that. And yet at the same time, I kind of don't apologise for the strength of feeling I have about this issue. So you're in your own integrity to stay with that you feel there's a difference of opinion, but the way you handled it was different.
It's really bringing a different kind of sincerity to it, isn't it, by doing it that way?
I think so. And it's the more we can be real with people and take ownership and responsibility for our feelings, thoughts and actions, and yet acting assertively. I think it's, as you know, Melissa, there's a difference between being assertive and being aggressive.
That's right. That's right.
That's it. When we're assertive, we still respect the rights of the other person. We're not diminishing them in any way. Aggression is when we're coming on heavy and pushing them down with our input.
It's got that real I'm okay, you're okay approach.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely.
You then can come and move on in the future without feeling you have to sort of bury the hatchet and mark the spot.
So, Claire, where do you think is a good place to say sorry? I'm talking in terms of location. It's always better up front, face-to-face, isn't it?
If we can, I think in our modern technological world, this can be very challenging. In fact, we're finding a lot of young people are not only not able to recognise the facial nuances of body language because they're so used to looking at a computer. They're just not used to having conversations one-to-one.
That's
they
right.
do it by texting and computer. And there is nothing that replaces that being in the presence of another human being to pick up in a more intuitive way their reactions and feelings. So I suggest to people the stronger the need for the apology or the hurt that's been caused, the stronger the need to do this in person.
Yeah.
And certainly put time aside and not do it in a rushed context.
And it also how much you value that relationship. If it's someone really super important to you, doing it face to face with those expressions that are so required for attunement, it's a better way to do it up front in person.
I agree with you, and I also think you've demonstrated that you have chosen to take the time out to do that. So
Yeah.
your actions speak louder than your words.
Yeah. Should you ever say sorry if you don't mean it?
I don't think there's any real room just to be incongruent with people or inauthentic. I'm just trying to think of an example when you... could it be possible to highlight and reflect on the fact that there's been a difficult situation? Maybe if you could ease that person's embarrassment or something, maybe there's a little bit of room for getting over a tricky situation.
Uh-huh.
But I think to actually say sorry when you really don't mean it, neuroscience is catching up with this. And what we knew is intuition and a sort of, I really don't think the person's really sorry. Often there are corresponding things happening in the brain and the blood flow in the brain that neuroscience is now telling us that what we thought was gut reaction actually was things happening in the brain, and there's often a contagion effect of what's happening in ours.
And what happens is with that brain activity, you can start to see things on people's faces that we may sometimes call intuition, but it's actually something that you've picked up, and it could be that insincerity, and you can see it right there on their face. And so you're talking about something very, very important around that catch-up with neuroscience and what we understand nowadays.
Absolutely. Actually, I've just come up with an example of something that happened today, actually. We're on Melbourne Cup, of course, and a situation where someone had arranged a Melbourne Cup party and somebody didn't want to go. And they suddenly found out a little bit of information and they felt they'd come across the animal welfare issues, but they realised that this person had put in so much effort that they kind of didn't feel sorry for not attending and celebrating what they now saw as inappropriate, but they felt they wanted to apologise to the person. So maybe that's an example, but they did sincerely feel sorry, of course, for letting the person down, and they went to so much effort.
And sometimes that motivation to actually feel it on the inside is where you are able to express it more genuinely. And we all know that feeling when we feel like we've done something wrong and we need to apologise.
That's right. I think so. And I think it's the sort of thing one's mother tells you, you'll be the bigger person. Because, if you want a better world, let's start by contributing the type of skills, qualities, attitudes that would be that world. And if you can bring that to play and put your hands up and show a level of humility without, letting yourself down, I think that makes for a better world.
Oh, Claire, I think you've answered some wonderful questions today, and surely to be some questions that'll help our listeners. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yes, and I'm sorry I was late. No problem. I hope the listeners really benefit from this. It'll be great.
Talking lifestyles, talking about it.
Yeah, some good advice there about saying sorry. Your questions about saying sorry, you might have a few tonight. 13 12 83. All right, it's Talking Relationships. David Pryor with you with Melissa Ferrari tonight. 13 12 83, just a phone call away. We are talking relationships. Melissa Ferrari is with me tonight. Ever wondered why some relationships work out and others just don't? It is a good question, isn't it?
Very good question.
Divorce, it's so common these days that being in a loving, passionate and long-lasting relationship seems as likely as winning the lotto, doesn't it? But why do some relationships go the distance? What are the couples that are doing it right? What are they doing? Our next guests, Adele and Ellie, are from Passionate Retirees. They have a combined 80 years of experience in the health field, both as medical doctor and chiropractor, and they've written a book called Relationship Secrets for Sexy Seniors. And they join us now to share their tips for getting the best out of their relationship, out of your relationship, and how to make your relationship work. Hi, guys. Welcome to the show.
Good evening. And hi there, it's Adele here.
Hi, Adele.
Hello, it's Melissa here. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ellie.
Hi, glad to be here.
Okay, so I've got a few questions for the two of you. When it comes to relationships, where do you two think couples are getting it wrong?
I think if you look at relationships, there are a number of stages that we all go through in a relationship. And it doesn't matter how old we are when we first get into the relationship, we go through the stages. And I've sort of broken them down into four. Many other writers and researchers do a lot more than that. First one is the time of infatuation, which is somewhere between 3 to 9 months. And, you know, you can't stop thinking about that person and, you know, sort of they really occupy space in your mind. Then you go through the stage of 9 months to somewhere around about 3 years where you start to put some of the energy back out into your work life or family life and you're sort of moving in and out of the relationship. That's when most of us usually get married, is sometime in that phase. Then we go through the phase sort of 3 years to somewhere around about 15, 20 years where most of our energy is outside the relationship. And that's the time when we're getting on with careers, bringing up families, et cetera, et cetera. And then we come to that end of that time and we turn around and look at one another and go, oh, who are you? Because often we've gone off and lost the relationship in that time. And this is now starting to be a big issue with divorce in the older groups, particularly the over 60s. And Ellie's got some statistics on that.
Well, we found that in the last 30 years, the baby boomer generation, the divorce rate has actually doubled during that time. And it seems that even in second and third marriages, people are not getting it right. So there's a real issue. What I find really incredible is that if you want to become a doctor, or you want to become a lawyer or a psychologist, let's say, you go through a training program, a course, study before you get your license. But when it comes to relationships, we just get a marriage license, but we don't do any sort of training. And I think that's really what's missing for a lot of people.
It's an important part, isn't it, to think about that fact that we don't really get the training that we need. And so we come into relationships really with the blueprint that we've got, and the blueprint being how we've been shaped psychologically in our own family. And so it's really tough, you know, being in a relationship. I always say I think that one of the hardest things is being in a relationship. And it's great to have you guys on the show just to talk about some of these things. So what do you think when you do get to that point when you've realised that, you know, who are you, that question that you said, who are you? What do you think couples can do at that point in regards to their relationship and how to get some of the old feelings back and get the relationship back on track?
I would think it's not old feelings you need to get back, it's but new ones. And I think it's a real opportunity for each of you to look at, well, who am I now? What are my values? Because they've changed over the last 20, 30 years. So you're a different person than you were when you first met. And so identifying who you are and what's important to you is the number one step. And your partner doing the same for themselves and then sharing them. And then looking at how you now work those together.
See, when you're in a relationship, you're actually selling to one another. Any kind of relationship actually is a sales interaction. When you meet somebody new, you know, you dress the part, you put makeup on, and so forth. So you're actually selling yourself physically at that point in time. But throughout our lives, we're selling to our partners according to our values, and then our partner is selling to us according to their values. And as long as we're doing that on an equal footing, we call that a caring relationship. But what happens very often is we impose or try to impose our values on our partner's values. And we call that carelessness insofar as the selling aspect of it. So the person that's doing the carelessness is actually the bully. And the one that's on the receiving end of that is actually the victim. And, you know, when you're a victim, you're walking on eggshells. You don't want to upset the apple cart. But that's not a recipe for a successful relationship.
I like how you say that about selling yourself in a relationship. You know, I work with couples very often and I'm always saying, well, every day, and I'm always saying, you know, you really have to show up in your relationship in positive ways. And part of that, I guess, you know, I like how you use that term about selling yourself. And for me, it's really about showing your best self. And I read that you two say, you know, there's two things that don't work, and as you said, carelessness and
you I mean, very very critical is communication. What happens in many relationships is people talk at one another, and there's this principle called active listening. And what that means is, you know, oftentimes you get into a conversation and something that's said gets misconstrued by the other partner. And then we jump on that. And what's important is that we ask the question, is this what you meant by what you said? And then you get clarification. That's actually active listening.
Sally and I had to do this very early on in our relationship because our backgrounds are entirely different. I am West Australian, brought up in the wheat belt, rural area, you know, sort of rural Methodist. And Ellie comes from big city Toronto. Parents were of Eastern European background, a whole different value system. And it was a bit like one of us spoke Mongolian and the other one Swahili.
Yeah, two different languages. Yeah.
We had to ask one another, what do you mean by that? And we learned to do that very early on. I think that's been one of the very valuable tools that we developed that's kept us really enjoying our relationship 31 years later, isn't it?
Wow, congratulations. Yeah. Fantastic.
That's a long time.
And I think you're talking about, you know, what I talk about being soft with your partner in a way, you know, that real soft kind of approach of checking things out and asking them what's going on for them. So some beautiful advice from both of you there tonight. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
Do you have a website that we can find out some more details?
Yes, it's Passionate Retirees, one word, lowercase.com.
All right, passionateretirees.com. Fantastic. And the book that you've written, Relationship Secrets for Sexy Seniors, I love it. I think that's fantastic. Adele,
we can all be sexy no matter what our age.
Absolutely. Yay, we're all for that. Good on you.
And we're still youngsters. We're 70, actually.
Yeah.
Ah, whippersnippers.
Very young.
Yeah, absolutely. We think we're just starting middle age now.
Yeah.
That's right.
Perfect timing.
It is, isn't it? Good on you. Adele and Ellie, thank you very much for your time tonight, okay, on Talking Relationships.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Talking lifestyles, talking about it.
13 12 83, our telephone number for your questions tonight. For Melissa Ferrari here, 13 12 83, that telephone number. As we, on a Tuesday night, we talk relationships.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
Talking lifestyles, talking about it.
We're talking relationships. Melissa Ferrari is here and David Pryor with you. And I guess using the words sex and older people, it's kind of an awkward pause that follows, isn't it, really?
That's true, David.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be, really. Attitudes are changing, aren't they? Whilst some of the younger people are out there supporting free the nipple, there are many that are supporting older people actually understanding the fact that they are still in sexual relationships.
And I think it's important, and what I think is great about this is that society's starting to talk about it a lot more. And sometimes we just have to start to have the conversations. And so what I love about, you know, what we're doing here tonight and chatting to people and things, it really is about starting conversations. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's not a taboo subject. If you'd like to discuss it, you're certainly welcome to do so. 13 12 83. When is too old to have sex? Does there come a day when you actually say, well, I'm too old? Do you never stop thinking about it? But there comes a time when it's okay, it's over. As Australia's ageing population increases, experts are urging older people to talk openly about sex and relationships. And Dr. Catherine Barrett is the founder of Older People and Sexuality Institute, and she's been a champion, hasn't she, for their cause. And despite the stereotypes, many seniors continue to have a very active sex life. And she joins us on Talking Relationships with her tips for enjoying a healthy sex life as you get older?
Hi there, Catherine. I'm very, very excited to learn more about what you are doing at the Opal Institute. I think it's fantastic. But just for our first question tonight, is age a factor in whether we can enjoy sex?
Look, I think it is actually because there is so much baggage around community values and beliefs and attitudes to sex. I think older people, we take it on board as we age. We don't feel as good about our bodies. In our ageist world,
We're more conscious of our bodies.
Yeah, we are more conscious of our bodies and our aging, and that can inhibit some of us. But what I also too hear from a lot of older people is that sex can be more pleasurable in old age because there's less of that kind of sense of performing in ways that we think we should perform socially. And I think as we get older, we're more inclined to know what we want and go for it in terms of what we want. And so that can make sex more pleasurable.
And so you're saying that you've lost some of those things that provoked anxiety when we're younger. As you get older, a lot of that has sort of fallen away. So it really does provide that place where you can explore together without having those issues that we have, particularly around body image and things when we're younger.
Yeah, look, absolutely. One of the things in the work that I do around ageism, older people, and I ask older people, tell me one thing that you value about your own ageing. The most common response would be, I know who I am, I'm much more authentic. You know, I do what I want now. And so to actually translate that to our sexuality or our sex, what it can mean is that we are more inclined to pursue what we want and not put up with what we don't.
Yeah. So how do you think you can bring up the topic with your partner around this?
Well, I think one of the challenges we know from the research is that older people are not talking about sex or sexuality as much as they need to. And a lot of older people that I speak to, particularly older women, say that sex was a taboo when they were growing up and there was no information, and so it's not something that was discussed. And so particularly some of the research I'm thinking about in relation to Viagra. I mean, there's some extraordinarily interesting research that shows that, you know, older men going off and getting prescriptions, getting Viagra off the internet, and then taking the Viagra, enhancing erections, but not discussing it with their partners. And that needs to be mediated, needs to be discussed, because you can't just, you know, have a major change in your sexual dynamic without talking to your partner about, you know, what does your partner want? What does she feel about, you know, the changes in your erectile functioning, and what does she want in terms of intercourse? And are there other things that can be enjoyed, like, you know, more foreplay or more touch or more intimate time together that doesn't necessarily involve penetrative vaginal sex, for example?
Mm-hmm.
And so there are opportunities, but you know, we know that a lot of older people, particularly in Western countries, aren't talking about it. There's some research in Mexico that suggests there are different models and it's much more negotiated. But, you know, I think we can do a lot better.
So it's like, Catherine, what you're saying there is that really the importance of having a relationship right from the beginning where you are able to have those kind of conversations. What you're saying is that early in a relationship, like couples that are younger who do plan on being together for forever, that starting that foundation of being a couple that can talk about things is really going to be sort of like money in the bank for older, or when they're older and able to continue that kind of thread of being a couple that are able to have conversations about these kind of things.
Yeah, Melissa, I think you're on the money with that. I think absolutely sort of building those communication skills in a relationship is something wonderful to take with you as you age. And so then, of course, it begs the question, what happens now for our generations of older people that have not had that dynamic of...
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you think couples can find new ways to enjoy sexual contact and intimacy when they are older?
I think some of the work that I am hoping to do next year is working with the older people to have those conversations so we can broaden the repertoires, if you like. I did some work with Women's Health in the Southeast last year, some conversations with older women about sexual wellbeing and sexual safety, and they were wonderful conversations. I think we all enjoyed them. And it was really talking about what it is that they encounter and what it is that they want. And the women, as they were having conversations, were learning from each other. And I think that's a fantastic model for, for changing things and building people's confidence and levels of comfort to have those conversations.
David, what are you thinking?
I understand that the fellas, it's easy for them to go out and find that little blue pill to help them along. But yeah, you have to come home and discuss with your partner. The dynamics are changing with these new technologies and these changes.
One of the things that's happening now with internet, and of course relationships not lasting as long. In the past, a relationship, you got married and there was a relationship for life. But now there are a lot, the divorce rate has increased. And what we're finding is that older people are renegotiating their sexuality. So in the past, if your relationship ended, that was it, forget it, gone over. Whereas now there's internet dating and a whole range of other ways that older people can go out there. And there's kind of almost a social expectation that they will go out there and potentially meet new partners. And that's something that we know from the research that older people are doing. One of the fastest growing cohorts of internet dating sites. So older people are,
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and so the opportunities, to go out and to, have new relationships. But I think it's really important that we give older people information on,
starting again,
how to have a conversation about sexuality, how to go out and meet someone new. And I think the other thing too is that one of the things that older people tell me time and time again is they want us to expand our focus on sex to talk about sexuality more broadly. So it's that sense of self and their self-esteem and their body image and the way they feel about themselves, and particularly the intimacy, the touch and hugging and love and intimacy in relationships is incredibly important for older people, particularly, in an ageist world, and you might have this partner that's also aging that absolutely loves you for who you are, and that can be very comforting.
And I work with couples, Catherine, on a regular basis, and the stuff you're saying is spot on in terms of older people and how that aliveness and their willingness to still keep their own youth or whatever you want to call it through those small things, and they're understanding the importance of hugging and touching each other and all of that kind of stuff, and just how important it is. And what I love is how you're bringing so much conversation to this. It's fantastic.
Yeah, good on you.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Melissa.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Catherine Barrett. There we go. That's fascinating, isn't it, Melissa? And technology has certainly changed not just the little blue pill, but also our social media has changed the way we are going out there and doing things.
And listening just then, to what Dr. Catherine said, it really does highlight how the internet and all of that social media and all of that is really bringing, something really new, and it's very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Talking lifestyles, talking about it.
We're about out of time too. Gosh, it's gone quick, hasn't it, tonight?
It sure has. I've enjoyed every minute.
Yeah, you've got the radio bug.
I think I have. I love it. Yeah. I've really enjoyed it tonight, David.
Isn't it a beautiful medium? It is a real one-on-one medium.
Well, I know for myself, it's like I'm always looking for a place that I'm able to bring some messages around relationships, because I do believe relationships are really, really hard. They're hard to navigate. And so being, brought onto the show to be able to give some of the tips that I have, and I have many, many more, to be able to share with listeners. And, my key one is I really believe putting relationships first is a key thing in regards to happiness and longevity and all of that kind of stuff.
And what do you have on your website? Your website, just once again, I want to give that a good plug.
Oh, thank you. It's www.melissafferrari.com.au. So it's Ferrari like the car and Melissa with one L and two S's. And go to my website and have a little look.
And next time you're in, we're going to take a look at how to approach a first date, particularly those that are going online and deciding, okay, I'm going to make that next step and I'm going to take that date. So we'll do that next time
Wonderful.
you're in. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me.